Very interesting thing how we are told by this society that we need to be unique, you know? And in a world full of copycats, be an original, just like everybody else. Right? Yeah, just be you. No, not that way, this way. Dress this way, talk this way, eat this way, interact with other people this way. We are encouraged to be ourselves, and yet we are constantly being told how that ourselves is supposed to look like. Look at, and the whole point, when you go back to that, is if you're told that again and again that you should do something, you will start accepting that idea. And then you're going to go and spend money to become like that or to act that way and so on. So in the end, behind all of the commercials, ads, and campaigns is just another way how to get us to spend our money and give it to them. Still, the fact remains. Our society is everything but genuine. Now, finding yourself sounds very abstract, you know? You need to take the time to find yourself, to figure out who you are. And after 15 minutes of soul searching, I decided to run for president. You remember that? George W. Bush, 2000. I remember that as I was in seminary. That was so funny when he said that. And it was like, really, in America, it takes them 15 minutes to make decisions like that. That's awesome. But you realize that that's how things work here. Everything is so fast-paced that you don't really have time to stop, reflect, look inward, see who you really are. All you have the time to do is look around you and then wonder if you fit in or not. Without real analysis of what's behind all of those layers. Let's open Psalm 27. Grab your Bibles, or you can see it on the screen if you don't have your Bibles with you or if you don't feel like reading. But I would encourage you to open your Bibles. It's so much more personal when you read it that way. Psalm 27 just as is a Psalm of David. So David wrote this song in his expression of genuinity. I hope I pronounced that right. David wrote a lot of psalms. And any of you, did you ever write a poem? Oh, there's a few of you. Okay, so if you think about what drove you to do that, it's usually going to be an immense amount of some kind of emotional outburst. Either it's exhilaration and happiness in life, or it's pain, or it's maybe just a school assignment. But when you really sit down to do it on your own, you pour your heart into that song. Like you try to shape your, not your thoughts, you try to shape your emotions, your trembling in you, you try to put in words to express your experience, your physical, emotional, spiritual experience. Now, when Jews would do that at that time, they wouldn't write songs the way we write them today. You know how we have like verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, chorus, maybe chorus one more time. But the whole idea is around the chorus. That's how it works in our analytical Western minds. Everything kind of follows through all the way to the end. Well, Jews had a different idea of thinking. When they would write things down, especially when they would write poetry, they had that holistic idea where the whole text would revolve around one center point. And the way they would do that, it's called the chiastic structure of a poem. They would build a pyramid with their poem. And the pyramid would be where the beginning of the song is one side of the pyramid, and then the end of the song is the other side of the pyramid, and whatever is the central core message is going to be there on top. And the easiest way to figure that out and to notice that is if you start reading Hebrew poems or psalms, read first couple of verses in the beginning, then go all the way to the back, to the end of the psalm, and then read the last. And then when you start reading it, you see if it's matching or not, if it's complementing each other or not. If it really has nothing to do with each other, then it's like, oh, okay, it's not there. But you will find a lot of times when reading Psalms that the writer is going to lead you to that center point. You have to read everything through, then you have to go back, read it again, match things, and then like, wow, makes sense. That's what we're going to do right now. So let's start reading Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? He's saying the same thing twice, emphasizing this important question. And then he technically gives an answer. When evildoers assail me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fail. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, yet I will be confident. David starts very simple and basic story. He looks at his life. He's a king. He looks at what's happening around him. He's looking at all of the politics outside and inside that he needs to deal with. And he realizes one thing. He realizes that the only thing that is certain in this life is God. And he looks up and he says, with all of these things that I'm doing, with all of these people around me who wish me bad, I can rely on God. And then he explains why. Because when the things get bad, I'm not going to be the one to fall. They will be the one to fall. And the reason to that is because he relies on God. Now, if we go all the way back to the last verse, verse 14. My Bible is slow today. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. He is pretty much talking to himself in this poem, but he is talking to us too. So now he is saying, okay, God is my salvation. That's literally the only thing I have. The only thing I can rely is God. Because these guys here, they want to do bad things to me. My boss is horrible. I have some friends that are not trustworthy. I don't know why is my professor so acting like that towards me. But so many bad people around me. What am I going to do? Wait for the Lord. Wait for the Lord. And let your heart take courage. One interesting thing over here noticed is that David doesn't take action. So, we know that he was a warrior. Before he became a king, his genuine face was a bloody face with a sword in his hand. That's what he was. He was fighting all the time. He was a mercenary. Psst. Come on, take a seat. So he was one bloody guy who would take vengeance. And now over here, you see him changing his me image. His me image is not anymore like that. He is waiting for the Lord. Now, do you dare to do the same thing when bad things happen? Do you dare saying, I'm going to wait for the Lord? You lose a job and you have to work on Sabbath. Do you dare saying, I'm going to wait for the Lord? You get cancer, or someone you love gets cancer. You raise your eyes up, you start crying to God. Why, God? Why did you do this? You get angry with God. Or you wait for the Lord. It's very hard to be genuine and wait for the Lord. Because part of our human nature, especially in our American society, I want it right now, right here. I want things resolved. If you can't resolve it, I will resolve them. We are called to find our genuine Christian nature in waiting for Him. Let's go on. Let's move. I don't want to take too much time. Now, I don't want us to get lost in details too much. But let's keep on reading. So let's go back to verse 4. Now, interesting thing, David shifts his focus. One thing have I asked the Lord, and that will I seek after, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in His temple. And now look at verse 13. I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. He is building up. He is building up now, and he is moving into his personal area of genuine needs. Last night I had a Vesper with the youth, and we were talking about the things that we need. Okay, what do you guys need? Everybody needs money. Why do you guys need money? Well, we want to get rich. Everybody wants to get rich. You talk to teenagers, all of them think that by the age of 30 they're going to drive a Lambo. Every single one of them. Then when they get to college, they realize that might be age 40 or maybe even 50. And then by the time you get to an age of 60, you move into an RV and spend your pension funds on gas. What do you really want in life? Why do you do things? Why do you go to school? Why do you try to get education? Why do you spend 8, 10 hours a day, every single day, working to make money? Why? What's the purpose of that?
Pay bills.
To pay bills. Pay bills and die. That's it. And taxes, yeah. Yeah, there is a greater chance of you paying taxes than dying. Yeah. We are wrapped in material so much that sometimes we think that is all that we need for one sole purpose. We want to be happy. We want to wake up in the morning, breathe in and say, what an awesome day. And it's a blizzard outside. But it's still an awesome day. We want to go to bed with a smile on our face, with relaxation in our heart. We want to be genuinely happy. And David goes to the core of needs. Do you want to find the real you? You're not going to find it in your wallet. You're not going to find it in your car, in your house. David's experience was, I have only one desire. Can I live in the church? Can I sleep in the pews? Like, I can use the handicap bathroom for a shower, but I just want to be here. I just don't want to leave. That is his idea. That is his description of the core of our real needs in life. We want to attain happiness. And God is the one that can really give us that happiness. But we have to go elsewhere every single time and look for it elsewhere every single time before we turn to God. Learn from David. Let's learn from him. Let's move on. For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. And I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. And then let's go back to the end of Psalm 14. Not to the end, but kind of getting there. Verse 11. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Give me not up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they breathe out violence. Again, he's talking about the same things in the beginning midsection and the ending midsection. He's talking about the society he lives in. We tend to kind of fit in the society. And David over here seems to be an outcast from the society that he describes. You know, if you consider yourself a believer, if you say, I believe in God, or if you say, I believe in the power of good, and you believe that you should be good, you will most likely be an outcast in your surroundings. Because you can't be good to people and succeed. I mean, you have to cut people off in traffic every once in a while when you're late, right? Right? You see, we get yes and no's. And that is probably the simplest way to put it. But every once in a while, you have to elbow through in order to succeed. Right? It's a Shark Tank we live in. No. Now, it's easy, Miloš, for you to say that you're paid to be a pastor. You're paid to be a good guy. Yeah, in that sense, it might be easy for me. I don't have to worry about elbowing too much, except when Pastor Gordon wants to preach. But the matter of fact is that we forget one thing that David says here. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path. Because, why? Because of myself? Why? Because of my enemies. He is not asking God, like Solomon, his son. Solomon asked for a wisdom so he could lead the people, and that was a great thing. But David has a different focus here. He looks at the people around him. He looks at the elbowers. He looks at the guys who cut off. He looks at all of those people who are not going to give it a single thought to hurt somebody to go through. And then he says, teach me your ways, of Lord, because of them. You're genuine you is supposed to be presented in this world. If you are a believer, if you believe in the power of good that should work in you through your faith in your God, then your genuine you is going to show that. And if you're not sure how to deal with that stuff, what do? Teach me, O Lord. You go and find your genuine you in how God describes genuine you should be. The only reason we interact with people the way we do is because we are told or taught that that is the way we should do. A bully is usually the one who was told by his dad, just push them around. And a whiner is usually a whiner because he saw his parents whining about things. We are told and taught that certain things should work a certain way. I'm telling you, find your genuine you in what God tells you that you're supposed to look like. Let's go on. Almost to the end. Almost to the peak of the pyramid. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. Hide not your face from me. Turn not your servant away in anger. O you who have been my help, cast me not off. Forsake me not, O God, my salvation. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in. The beginning, again, hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, and be gracious to me and answer me. And then afterwards, sorry. I would appreciate it. My throat is getting dry. Thanks, Gonzalo. I spent 2 weeks in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was as uneventful as it could be, but it was not this dry. So it takes me a little bit of time to get used to Colorado dryness. Now David is begging God. He just told us, teach me, O God. Go to God and then ask God to teach you. But he doesn't stop there. Let me ask you this. When you read these verses, do they sound like whining? Do they sound to you like he's whining? A little, right? He is really crying out over here. He is really making it sound like he is in tremendously bad situation. O you who have been my help, cast me not off, forsake me not. You know, he's talking, he's crying out to God as if God is so far away. The matter of fact is, when you read the psalm, you see that he is not that far from God. He actually has a pretty good understanding of God. But this is one thing that we fail to do. We are so busy with our lives that God is usually on a shelf. We remember God when we need something, when bad things happen. Then we take God off of the shelf and then we try to get the God to do things. Even if God did things, we probably wouldn't even recognize them because we are so unacquainted with the way God works that we wouldn't see if that was God's or not. David is here crying out to the Lord in his outbursts of emotion, just pouring before God. I'm sure that God already answered this, but still he keeps doing it. And he was a king. He was not bored sitting on his throne, like flipping his scepter, like, what am I going to do today? He had to deal with stuff. He had wars, he had famines, he had crazy neighbors. He had a lot of things to deal with. But his focus in life every single day was what? Hear me, O Lord. Don't forsake me, O Lord. Teach me, O Lord. Is that focus of your life? Or let's put it this way. You work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You guys that go to school, more or less the same thing, full-time students. How much time, how much quality time, not that yawning time before you're going to pass out in bed, oh, let me say a prayer. Not that time, real quality time. How much time on a daily basis do you invest into learning from God who He is and who you are supposed to be. This is not a guilt trip. I'm just trying to make you think. You invest so much time into paying bills and taxes and getting education, and yet you're going to pay your bills. They're going to be paid. You're going to get your diplomas. That's awesome. But just imagine if we invested a fraction of that time on a daily basis to get to know God. How much easier life would be then? How much easier and safer and more joyful would life be if we did that? Let's go to the focus. The last verse, the only verse that we didn't read today, to the top of the pyramid of human genuinity. You have said, seek my face. And my heart says to you, your face, Lord, do I seek. You have said, seek my face. David quotes God. God is inviting every single one of us here to seek His face. And then David says, your face I seek, O Lord. The center of David's genuinity list is seeking God's face. You know, that is the moment when everything is torn down. Because when you seek God, here's the thing, God knows you. You know when you bow your heads in prayer that all of those things that your friends don't know, that your parents don't know, He knows all of that stuff. You are bare naked before Him. He knows everything. And then on top of it, He knows how to fix everything. Seek my face, and my heart says to you, your face do I seek. Let me ask you something. When God created the world, He said, and God said, and things happened. What did He do with Adam? What does the Bible say? He collected some dirt, remember? He formed Adam, and what does the Bible say that He did then? You remember? He breathed the life in him. So, imagine this. God breathes life in him. Adam opens his eyes. What is the first thing he saw? Just imagine God. Like first CPR ever done in the Bible. Ever done in the, you know? Adam opens his eyes. He sees God's face. The first thing every human ever saw was God's face. That's where things started. It started with God's face. And God said everything was good. If we go to Revelation and we read about Jesus' second coming, what will be the last thing people who are saved will see before departing from this world? And they will see my face. Jesus says in Revelation. On the other hand, the ones who are doomed, do you remember the verse that describes their last moments? All hills and stones fall upon us and hide us from what? The face of the one that is coming. Everything in our existence revolves around the face of God. Why? Why is that so important? You remember that moment in teenage years? Like the first, I don't know, I just remember it. I don't remember what age I was, but I remember like the place and everything. It was just weird. So I hope I'm not the only one. Otherwise I would really feel weird. But like one morning, I looked in the mirror and I really saw the outlines of my dad's face. Like, wow, look at, wow, I never, kind of like, wow, that's interesting. Like the shape of his beard and the face. And I'm like, wow. Have you had that experience? Like recognizing the face of your parents in the mirror. My my aunt and uncle, they adopted a girl. They couldn't have kids, so they decided to adopt. One of the things that she had at a certain point in her upbringing, again in her teenage years, was she just wanted to find out who her parents were. Eventually it ended up impossible to really find that out. But she was wondering, she was asking who her parents were. Even though my aunt and uncle were great parents, they raised her and now she's married and she's happy and life is good. But at one point in her self-awareness process, she started to ask, where do I really come from? She looks in the mirror and she didn't see my aunt's and uncle's face. She might have seen it in her actions and behavior, but not in her facial expression. Why? If we really originate from God, the only way to really find out who we are and what we are supposed to be in our core is to seek the face of God, is to find Him and see Him. And something like that is not a McDonald's experience. You can just go in a drive-thru and get it. Something like that, you have to invest your time every single day and your efforts and your energy and your mind. If we go to, you remember the Aaronic blessing when God said Moses, this is what Aaron is going to say upon the people after they are clean from their sins. Very interesting thing. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, thus you shall bless the people of Israel. You shall say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Now, do you see what follows from seeing the face of God? Do you see what is the outcome of seeing the face of God? Is peace something you desire in life? Probably when you're young, you're like, The older you get, the more you get that need just to be at peace. I had, I could say privilege, to be present several times at the deathbed of some people. And usually they seek only one thing, to make peace with everybody. We can have peace in this restless world if we find the face of God that is going to reflect in our own face. Last thing that I would like us to turn to before our prayer is Genesis chapter 32. Genesis chapter 32 is a well-known story to all of us, but there is something really interesting in it. So, one thing that is happening to Jacob here, Jacob is in tremendous fear. The story of Jacob is very simple. He was a baby boy of his mom, but he received a promise from God that he is going to inherit the right of the firstborn. Now, his dad didn't really like him that much, like little Weenie over there washing the dishes. No, he liked the hardcore warrior and hunter, big kid, who would, well, this is a man, not this, you know. And Jacob decides to trick his dad. And he tricks his father into stealing the blessing of the firstborn. And now suddenly everybody hates him. His brother wants to kill him. His dad hates him. He needs to run away. So he runs away. And now, after decades of life in exile, he is coming back. He doesn't know if his brother is going to kill him or not. He has no idea what's going to happen. He has struggles with his own life. Interestingly, name Jacob means the one that grabs the heel, because that's the way he was born. When his brother was born, he was born while holding his brother's heel. But some would interpret his name as a cheater, as a treacherer. Because Genesis chapter 3 describes the serpent biting Messiah for a heel. So he is carrying a fairly shameful name. And chapter 32 describes him completely by himself in the night. He's standing there looking for answers. And guess what happens? The same night he arose and took, verse 22, the same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. That's the border between where his brother lived. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And look at this weird thing. And a man wrestled him until the breaking of the day. Have you ever gotten in a fight? I'm sure most of us did. Here Jenny is lying to me. She said never. Yeah, girls are so funny when they fight. But anyways, like, the whole idea of a fight, it usually doesn't last that long. It lasts, what, a couple of minutes. After that, everybody's like, never mind. Or somebody gets beat up, or somebody runs, whatever. Jacob is wrestling somebody throughout the whole night. So this was not like box match, 12 minutes of beating. No, this was something very long-lasting. And Jacob gets hurt in this fight, but he doesn't want to let go. Verse 26, then the man said, let me go, for the day has broken. And Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Jacob does not want to leave before he gets a blessing. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. The word Israel could be translated as the one who, the victor in God. God is my victory. And then verse 30 says something very interesting. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God. How? Face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. In the midst of the night, in the midst of his night, Jacob could have done many things. He could have ran, he could have sent presents to his brother. He could have done many politically smart things to get a favor of his brother. But he stays alone. Somebody attacks him. He wrestles. Instead of running away, he keeps wrestling. He gets hurt. He keeps fighting. He does not want to let go. He says, I won't let you go until you bless me. Do you wrestle with God that much? Do I wrestle with God that much? We live in a time of made in China world where everything is replaceable. You know, iPads are replaceable, phones are replaceable, friendships are replaceable, marriages are replaceable. If it gets broken, just throw it away and get another one. And yet that's not the way it works when it comes to God. Don't let go of Him. His name was changed from a cheater to a victor in a way. His his genuine nature was changed at this point. Your genuine nature, my friends, and you know that very well, is hidden behind many layers. God sees them all. But in order for us to really thrive in life, in order for us to really be me, we have to wrestle with God until the end. We have to seek His face constantly. Otherwise, there is no really much point. There is no really much point of expecting anything from God unless you give Him everything. That is my challenge for the next week that is coming. If you want to be real, then seek His face. And His face is going to shine upon you, and your face is going to start looking like the face of your Father. May God bless us in that. Amen.